Hello and welcome. You're watching the 8 o'clock news. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. We've got lots lined up for you tonight. Let's begin with the headlines. Weekly cases in India cross the 10 lakh mark. In just 2 weeks, we've gone from 1 lakh to 10 lakh. 2 BJP ministers, 5 MLAs joined the rival Samajwadi Party. Akhilesh says cycle unstoppable now. BJP dismisses the impact of defections on polls. It's a tragic day for NDTV and all of our viewers as Kamal Khan, our Lucknow bureau chief, suddenly died of a heart attack this morning. Tributes have been pouring in from Yogi Adityanath to Akhilesh. Thousands of viewers.
फिलहाल कमाल खान को लखनऊ से इजाजत दीजिए। आदाब।
Fuel and food keep inflation high at 13.6%. December wholesale inflation at 13.6 versus 1.9 a year earlier. Wholesale inflation dips from November 14.2%, which was the highest in a decade. Bishop Franco Mulakal, accused of raping a nun several times between 2014 to 2016, has been acquitted by a court in Kerala for lack of evidence. Cops make their first arrest in the Haridwar hates case of Jitendra Narayan Tyagi. But as they arrest him, another accused threatened the cops, says all of you will die. Three kg bomb seen in Delhi ahead of Republic Day, and ID detonated by the anti-bomb squad later. Lodi, Makar Sankranti, Pongal and Bihu celebrations across the country, but all of this as crowds are seen, several without mask as well. Have we really learned no lessons? Let's begin with battleground Uttar Pradesh tonight. Former Uttar Pradesh ministers Swami, Prasad, Maurya and Dharam, Singh, Saini as well, who resigned this week from Yogi Adityanath's government and the ruling BJP less than 30 days before assembly polls, today joined the key rival and the key opponent for BJP in Uttar Pradesh, Samajwadi Party, and this was done in the presence of Akhilesh Yadav. 5 other BJP MLAs, these are Roshan Lal Verma, Brijesh Prajapati and several others, also joined Akhilesh Yadav. Since they can't do any rallies, there was a media press conference that was called, but huge crowds there were seen. In all, 11 MLAs, including 3 ministers, have quit the BJP in just 3 days.
It was billed as a virtual event in keeping with EC restrictions, but the crowds and the stage were very much like a physical rally to welcome the BJP rebels into the Akhilesh Yadav camp. Joining today, 2 of the 3 ministers who quit, Swami Prasad Maurya and Dharam Singh Saini, as well as 6 MLAs, 5 of BJP and 1 of the Apna Dal, a BJP ally. Maurya once again repeated his claim that it's the end game for the BJP.
आज 14 जनवरी मकर संक्रांति भारतीय जनता पार्टी के अंत का इतिहास लिखने जा रहा है.
Akhilesh Yadav claimed his party will now be unstoppable in the upcoming polls.
अब साइकिल का हैंडल भी ठीक है और दोनों पहिए भी ठीक हैं अब, और पैडल चलाने वाले देखो कितने हमारे नौजवान साथी दिखाई दे रहे हैं. अब कोई नहीं रोक सकता रफ्तार को.
The BJP, however, dismissed the impact of the defections.
एक पुत्र प्रेम से जा रहा है, एक किसी को जा रहा है जिसके लिए हम लोग ने कहा टिकट यहाँ पे नहीं लड़ पाओगे, आप हार जाओगे. 5 साल तो मलाई तुम खा रहे थे, 5 साल आपको कोई याद नहीं आई. कैबिनेट की जो कमेटियां बैठी थी उसमें आपने कभी आवाज नहीं उठाई।
Hit by a series of defections, the Bharatiya Janata Party has labelled the defecting leaders of playing opportunistic politics ahead of the polls. However, the fact remains that many of these now defecting leaders had joined the Bharatiya Janata Party ahead of the 2017 polls for the same reasons and were welcomed by the BJP with open arms. With camera person Akhilesh Singh, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Meanwhile, seen on losing ground with the OBC and scheduled castes, the UP Chief Minister today was seen sharing a meal at a scheduled person's house. He tweeted these pictures and the video is seen as a brand building of sorts after all those MLAs and ministers who quit the BJP. They had, remember, blamed the treatment of the Chief Minister personally towards the OBC and ST. Today's been a tragic day. NDTV's Kamal Khan, a veteran, award-winning journalist known for his deep insights into Uttar Pradesh politics, his elegant language, died at his home in Lucknow this morning after suffering a sudden heart attack. Kamal was with NDTV for over 3 decades. He will be remembered as a legendary reporter whose work stood out for its perspective, its integrity, and the way in which he delivered hard truths with poetic dexterity. As a news anchor, Kamal was a picture of poise and expertise, and his language was famous for its trademark elegance and a draw in its own right. Here's a look back at the life and legacy of our very dear Kamal Khan.
लखनऊ सिर्फ वही नहीं है जो हमने चौंधवी का चांद, उमराव जान, पाकीज़ा, पालकी, मेरे हुजूर और शतरंज के खिलाड़ी में देखा है। लखनऊ उससे कहीं आगे निकल गया है। उसकी खुशबू वही है, लेकिन लखनऊ लिबास बदल रहा है। मैं एक बार एक सरकारी अस्पताल में एंटी टेटनस इंजेक्शन लगवाने के लिए गया। एक स्टाफ के कहने पे झाड़ू लगा रहे एक शख्स ने झाड़ू रखी और मुझे इंजेक्शन लगाने आ गया, लेकिन तभी वहाँ मौजूद डॉक्टर ने मुझे पहचान लिया और उसे भगा के कंपाउंडर से इंजेक्शन लगवाया। यहाँ ये आम बात है, जब कोई हादसा हो जाता है तो रिक्शे वाले राजू की मेडिकल प्रैक्टिस बंद हो जाती है, लेकिन मामला ठंडा होते ही फिर शुरू हो जाती है। कैफी आजमी ने कल्पना की है कि भगवान राम 6 दिसंबर 1992 को वनवास से लौट के अयोध्या पहुंचते हैं। वो कहते हैं कि राम वनवास से लौट के घर में आए, याद जंगल बहुत आया जो नगर में आए, रक्स दीवानगी आंगन में जो देखा होगा, 6 दिसंबर को श्री राम ने सोचा होगा, इतने दीवाने कहाँ से मेरे घर में आए। पाँव सरयू में अभी राम ने धोए भी न थे कि नजर आए वहाँ खून के गहरे धब्बे, पाँव धोए बिना सरयू के किनारे से उठे, राम ये कहते हुए अपने द्वारे से उठे, राजधानी की फिजा आई नहीं रास मुझे, 6 दिसंबर को मिला दूसरा वनवास मुझे। माना जाता है कि ख्वाब मोटे तौर पे 8 तरह के होते हैं, डरावने ख्वाब, सुहाने ख्वाब, बार बार आने वाले ख्वाब वगैरह वगैरह, लेकिन ये 9वें तरह का ख्वाब है जो उधार का ख्वाब है। भले अखिलेश यादव पैसा दे के ख्वाब देखना चाहते हों, लेकिन अफसरों की काबिलियत तो देखिए, 1000 करोड़ का ख्वाब उधार में ही दिखवा दिया है। राहुल गांधी की रैली में भारी बारिश की वजह से सब कुछ तहस नहस हो रहा है, लेकिन बहरहाल ये कांग्रेस की रैलीज में अभी तक जो हमने देखा है, ये सबसे हाईटेक रैली है जिसमें ड्रोन से शूटिंग हो रही है, तमाम क्रेन्स लगी हुई हैं, मल्टी कैम सेटअप पार्टी की तरफ से लगाया गया है। यूं तो पानी आग बुझाता है, लेकिन इस बार पहाड़ के पानी ने आग लगाई है। सब्जियों के दामों में आग, ये आग नज़र तो नहीं आती, लेकिन जेब में महसूस होती है। सब्जी खाने वाले और सब्जी बेचने वाले दोनों यही कहते हैं कि ऐसी आग तो पहले कभी नहीं लगी थी, इसे बुझने में वक्त लगेगा।
एक पुराना शेर है कि जीने पे जिनको पास बिठाना मुहाल था, मरने के बाद कांधे पे उनको उठा लिया। लेकिन आज के दौर में ये उलट गया है, जीने पे जिनके पास बैठते थे, मरने के बाद उनकी अर्थी को 4 लोगों का कंधा नहीं मिल रहा है, जलाने के लिए लकड़ियां नहीं नसीब हो रही हैं, और उसका नतीजा ये हो रहा है। उन्नाव के रोतापुर से गौरव शर्मा और राजेश गुप्ता के साथ कमाल खान, NDTV इंडिया।
तमाम यूपी के, ईस्टर्न यूपी के जिले हैं, बलिया में, इलाहाबाद में, यहाँ पे बॉडीज इतनी ज्यादा आ रही हैं कि क्रिमेट करने में उनको मुश्किल हो रही है। चुनाव जो है वो माहौल और परसेप्शन के ऊपर लड़ा जाता है। लोकल पुलिस के लोग हैं, पूरा एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है, यानी फ्यूडल डेमोक्रेसी में, और वो ज्यादा बोल रहे हैं क्योंकि यहाँ बहुत पतली पतली गलियां हैं की सीटें आती हैं अभी तक बीजेपी के पास। ये प्रदर्शन पिछले कई दिनों से यहाँ पे चल रहा है। बैठने वाले सवारों में आपस में मारपीट हो गई। जवां जवां हंसी हंसी ये लखनऊ की सरजमीं। दरअसल लखनऊ एक एहसास भी है जिसे रूह से महसूस किया जा सकता है। फिलहाल कमाल खान को लखनऊ से इजाजत दीजिए। आदाब।
उनका बहुत बड़ा पत्रकारिता के क्षेत्र में योगदान रहा है। मैं भगवान से प्रार्थना करता हूं कि उनको अपने श्री चरणों में स्थान दे और उनके परिवार के लोगों को, उनके चाहने वालों को, सभी को इस दुख की घड़ी को सहन करने की शक्ति प्रदान करे।
किस शेर को किन परिस्थितियों में किस समय पर कहा जाए, शायद वो हुनर ऐसे ही पत्रकार के साथ था। आज कमाल खान हमारे बीच नहीं है, हमें दुख है इस बात का। एक बहुत अच्छे पत्रकार थे जिन्हें हमने अचानक खो दिया। हम सब उनके परिवार के साथ इस दुख की घड़ी में हैं और भगवान से प्रार्थना करते हैं कि इस दुख को सहने की शक्ति पूरे परिवार को, उनके सहयोगी साथियों को दे।
It's a shocking loss for the entire fraternity. All right, let's bring you the latest from the national capital, where a bomb was found inside a bag left at a flower market in East Delhi. The market in Ghazipur, which draws huge crowd, was cordoned off and a controlled explosion was carried out by the police. They even dug up an 8-foot pit to carry out this controlled blast.
A massive blast in East Delhi at a wholesale flower market. This was a controlled detonation by the National Security Guard or NSG. An abandoned bag was found around 9 a.m., which is rush hour here. The police arrived and cordoned off the market.
दुकान पे सामान लेने आए थे कस्टमर। उसकी दुकान पे गाड़ी खड़ी करी उसने स्कूटी। उसकी स्कूटी पे कोई किसी ने बैग रख दिया। बैग रखने के बाद उसने सामान लिया। उसने कहा किसी ने बैग रखा है, उसने बैग एक साइड में रख दिया। तो किसी ने फिर फोन कर दिया पुलिस को। अच्छा, तो फिर पुलिस आ गई।
Delhi Police Commissioner Rakesh Asthana told NDTV that the improvised explosive device was kept inside a bag left by a customer. The NSG carried out the detonation in an 8-foot deep pit. According to police sources, the bomb was an IED or improvised explosive device. It had about 3 kgs of explosives. Preliminary probe finds a highly explosive mix of nitrate and RDX. Timer attached to explosives. CCTV footage is being scanned for suspects. While a bomb being found in a crowded market in the national capital just a few days ahead of the Republic Day celebration has come up as a major security lapse, equally disturbing is the fact that the intended blast site was at the Delhi-UP border with upcoming polls in the state of Uttar Pradesh just weeks ahead. With camera person Rakesh Singh and correspondent Mukesh Singh Sengar, I'm Akshay Dongre for NDTV.
Also, today is the day when Lodi, Makar Sankranti, Pongal and Bihu festivities are being seen across the country. But remember, this is happening in middle of a third wave. And look at the crowding over there. No mask at times and a lot of people getting together. All this as India is seeing more and more cases being reported every single day, as positivity is also soaring up and curbs, meanwhile, being relaxed because of the festivals. Have we really learnt no lessons from here? Meanwhile, why exactly is this so worrying? Let's just look at the COVID numbers. Now, India witnessed 6.7% jump in the new COVID cases as it added 2.64 lakh new infections over the last 24 hours. The highest we have seen in 239 days. Deaths also have gone up to 315. The daily positivity rate, and this should be a reason of worry, was recorded at 14.78%, while the weekly positivity rate was recorded at 11.83. Meanwhile, weekly cases have crossed the 10 lakh mark for the first time since last May. But it's not just the number that is worrying, it's the speed at which we have come to this number. Speed at which cases have crossed this threshold is much faster. Last time, from under 1 lakh to 10 lakh, we took about 8 weeks. This time around, just 2. Also, India is amongst the 5 countries which have now crossed the 1 million cases mark just last week. You look at those figures on your screen. United States there, 5.3 million cases. France at 1.9. Italy at 1.2. And India 1.2. UK as well, just touching that 1 million mark. The latest figures on the wholesale inflation have come in this evening, and food and fuel seem to be the one keeping inflation numbers as high as 13.6%. The December wholesale inflation is 13.6% versus 1.9% a year earlier. And this has seen, wholesale inflation has seen a dip from November's figure at least, from 14.2%, which is the highest in a decade. Tum sab maroge, you all will die. This is what Yati Narsimhanand, one of the religious leaders accused in the Haridwar hate speech case, told the police officers today. This while his co-accused in this case, Jitendra Narayan Singh Tyagi, was being arrested. Here's what happened.
लीगल प्रोटोकॉल है, तो समझिए है ना, इतना आपने लेकिन इन्हें क्यों गिरफ्तार कर रहे हो? अरे मैंने बता दिया ना, वो लीगल प्रोटोकॉल के अकॉर्डिंग हमें अरेस्टिंग करनी है। एक 3 मुकदमों में वो नेम हैं, तो हमें एक तीनों के तीनों में साथ हो। अरे उन्होंने क्या अकेले कर ली क्या? स्वामी जी आइए, तो आइए हो जाए, बाकी चीज आप आइए, हमारे नहीं आने को नहीं आने को नहीं करे, ये समझ रहे भाई, वो भी समझ रहे, त्यागी जी समझ, त्यागी जी तो समझ रहे हैं, लेकिन हम तो समझ रहे हैं, हमारे भरोसे आप तो मना नहीं कर रहे हैं, आप नहीं जा रही, आप आ जाइए पीछे, हमारी गाड़ी तुम सब मरोगे अपने बच्चों को।
A shocking threat made by Yati Narasimhanand, one of those accused in the Haridwar hate speech assembly, as police negotiate with him as they attempt to arrest his associate Jitendra Narayan Tyagi. Yati himself questions why only Tyagi is being arrested, even though Yati is also booked in the same cases.
अरे मैंने बता दिया ना, वो लीगल प्रोटोकॉल के अकॉर्डिंग हमें अरेस्टिंग करनी है। एक 3 मुकदमों में वो नेम हैं, तो हमें एक तीनों के तीनों में साथ हो। अरे उन्होंने क्या अकेले कर ली क्या? स्वामी जी आइए, तो आइए।
But despite the threat and the taunt, the police do not arrest Yati. They only pick up Tyagi. And the irony is that the only person arrested in the case, Tyagi, is not one of those seen making hateful speeches at the event, unlike Yati and the others named in the FIR. The arrest, the first in the case, comes just a day after the Supreme Court issued notice to the Uttarakhand government in response to a plea seeking action against the hate mongers who spoke at the Haridwar Dharam Sansad.
तुम सब मरोगे अपने बच्चों को।
Even after the video of Yati's threats to the police went viral, it's unclear whether the police will act against him and the others. The Uttarakhand police skirted the question when asked about further arrests.
अब वो SIT काम कर रही है, जो जैसा कानून सम्मत होगा उसके अनुसार आगे कार्रवाई करेगी।
In fact, the hate mongers have announced a schedule of further such events, including one in Aligarh next week. This is Maryam Alavi for NDTV.
Bishop Franco Mulakar, accused of raping a nun several times between 2014 and 2016, has been acquitted by a court in Kerala. Franco Mulakar, 57, was the first Catholic bishop in India to be arrested for assaulting a nun. The court in Kottayam acquitted him of all charges after a trial that lasted for more than 100 days. The court cited lack of evidence as the reason why. The nuns, meanwhile, have got support from the NCW chairman, who's saying that they must approach the High Court against the judgment.
Rape-accused Catholic Bishop Franco Mulakar walking out of the court all smiles, minutes after he was acquitted by a court in Kottayam of all charges including rape, wrongful confinement, criminal intimidation of the serving nun. Mulakar, 57, is the first bishop to be arrested in India on charges of rape after a nun alleged that he sexually assaulted her 13 times between 2014 and 2016.
The prosecution miserably failed to prove their case. That is why. Because you may note that there is an inordinate delay of about 4 years for raising this allegation by the victim.
Subsequently, during cross-examination and with the aid of other evidence, it is proved that they are telling false. So their evidence is proved to be false. Not even a convincing medical evidence is there to corroborate the words of the prosecutrix.
Months after the complaint by the nun in June 2018, there were unprecedented protests by the nuns living in the same convent as the complainant nun, even taking to the streets in their official attire, demanding action by the church, police and government against the bishop. The nuns had repeatedly alleged attempts by the Catholic congregation to target them, including transfers, as the case was under trial. Today, they reiterated their support to the complainant nun, living with them in Kottayam.
Already it was the same earlier also, that we have suffered a lot and still it may be continuing. And we will be here and we will support the system.
ഞങ്ങൾക്കൊന്നേ പറയാനുള്ളൂ, ഞങ്ങളുടെ സിസ്റ്ററിന് നീതി കിട്ടും വരെ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഞങ്ങൾ മരിക്കേണ്ടി വന്നാലും ഞങ്ങൾ സിസ്റ്ററിന് നീതി കിട്ടുന്നതുവരെ ഞങ്ങൾ പോരാടും.
The statement of the victim alone, if it is without contradictions, can be taken as a piece of evidence for conviction. There were no contradictions. There was a clear statement from her in the FI statement, and despite grueling sessions of cross-examination for 9 continuous days, she stuck to her statement and the truth.
While the prosecution has decided to move in appeal against the acquittal, it is important to see how the nuns will be accepted in the very same diocese, the same congregation that has welcomed and celebrated the acquittal of the bishop. With camera person SP Babu, Sneha Koshi for NDTV.
The death count in yesterday's train accident in North Bengal has climbed to 9 and 37 people are in hospitals as officials say that no more passengers are trapped in the derailed coaches. Now 6 of the injured are said to be in critical condition. This, remember, happened as 12 coaches of the Bikaner-Guwahati express train derailed near Jalpaiguri. Now, Railway Minister has visited the spot and said that preliminary inquiry shows that there was a glitch that was noted in the locomotive equipment.